Today, and as a general theme, as we move away from the broker report, we are going to look at the near port element of safety. Last time we looked at offshore. This time we've decided to theme it around port operations and the rest of that, as you will see from the agenda. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Christopher and Neil from Port of Aberdeen, who we're going to talk about our operational risks that we're seeing.
Good morning.
Yeah, all good.
Well, that sounds like it's working well enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning everybody, and thank you to Alex and everybody at the MSF for inviting us today to speak a little bit about the Port of Aberdeen and give you all an insight into our facility, our port in the centre of Aberdeen. I think what we'll do is we'll give you a bit of an overview of the year that we had in 2024, and then we'll look at some of the specific changes that we've made recently pertaining to health and safety. My name's Christopher, I'm Key Account Manager at the port. With me is Neil. Neil's head of SHEC, so he's got vast amounts of experience and knowledge that I'm sure he's excited to share with you. So on the board, you will see these are our core values. Now, I think it was important to share exactly what our values are because they help to guide us in our decision making when it comes to our role in the community as a trust port. So I think that when we look at areas that we're going to be investing in or potential new industries which are coming forward that Paul's just discussed there, it's very important to us that we remain dynamic and we remain, adaptable. We can keep ourselves relevant, respectful, professional, and inclusive as well. Now, I'm not in the habit of one-upmanship, but before Alex did mention that MSF is currently approaching its 27th birthday. But I would like to make the point that in the next decade or so, we will be celebrating our 900th birthday. Now, I'm not quite sure about how we'll fit 900 candles on one cake, but I'm sure we'll get there. So, considering we've been around for so long, we've spent quite a lot of time building up our knowledge base, and we've learnt a lot of lessons over the years. And that's very, very handy when you consider the fact that we are Scotland's largest port by berthage. So we have just over 7.5 kilometres of quayside space across both North and South Harbours. And we're also Scotland's busiest port. So in 2024, we welcomed just over 7,000 individual vessel visits, which is quite a staggering amount to handle in 1 year. Now, in the process of doing that, we have become a national asset, and our strategic location on the North Sea and the capabilities that we're able to offer to all of our stakeholders means that the value that we can help generate in both regional and national economies is quite significant. And as a result of that, we have become an award-winning port, and we're very proud of the work that we put in year on year to continue to develop. And I think that at this point, it might be worth going into a little bit about the year in review. So looking at 2024 briefly. So I think some changes that we had in 2024, which are going to be of interest to some people in this room. We handled just shy of 3.5 million tonnes of cargo. So this is cargo that's destined for offshore fields, but it could also be goods and freight going on the ro-ro services to Shetland and Orkney, as well as over to Norway and even to the likes of West Africa and now the Caribbean. We had just shy of 22,000 cruise guests, which in itself is a fantastic achievement, and I'm sure most of you will have at some point seen the cruise vessels in South Harbour. The largest vessel we've had to date is the Costa Favolosa. She was just a whisker under 300 metres in length. And that, as you can probably tell for people familiar with the port, is much larger than we would normally see in North Harbour. And it really goes to show the changes that South Harbour allows us to make. Now, it doesn't come without its challenges. Trying to get 5,000 guests across quayside spaces is a good example of how we've adapted and changed some of our health and safety policies to allow that to go ahead and ensure that the guests are able to disembark and hook up with their excursions into the likes of D-side and to see our lovely part of the world. So it's been a good year. I guess building on some of our facilities too, we have some of the usual things that you expect to see at a port of our calibre. We have very capable quaysides, so we're capable of doing a lot of heavy lift projects. We have, as mentioned, over 7,500 kilometres quayside space and just under 700,000 square metres of laydown areas across both North and South Harbours. So the estate is quite a large estate. It takes a lot of managing on a day-to-day basis, and we do so with a fantastic team that work at the port, but also with the help of our very committed stakeholders that are operating day-to-day. I think one of the key things that Paul also touched on, looking at renewables and net zero ambitions, it's something which Port of Aberdeen is very interested in, and we'll speak about it a little bit later on in our presentation. But delivering decarbonisation is high up on our list of priorities, so we want to be working in collaboration with local governments and national governments to ensure that we can help go towards the net zero goals. And we do so with our own mindset, but we work very closely with a lot of the people that are in this room. As it's mentioned there, we have a proven world-class supply chain that I'm constantly singing the praises of to the customers that I speak to, and when I try and get them to come to Aberdeen and bring new business, I tell everybody how great we are in this part of the world. So we're very proud of the people in our region. So Port of Aberdeen has 7 identifiable revenue streams, and the SHEC department has a pivotal role to play in each of those revenue streams and those separate sectors. They help feed in with policies, and they help ensure that everybody who works at the port and all of our stakeholders that visit the port get to go home safely at the end of their day. The important thing for us is that whether you're coming to work as part of renewables projects or whether you're working on O&M bases that are in North Harbour, whether you're building the ferries up to Shetland and Orkney, or whether you're a third-party service provider who comes to one of our properties across the estate, it's important that everybody's able to work safely and, as we mentioned, get home at the end of the day. I think, Alex, you mentioned being able, you don't want to have that call saying that something bad's happened, and we obviously want to make sure that the work that we do negates as much of that as possible. Now, one of the things that we've implemented in order to try and sort of bring about that ethos and to maintain our already strong focus on safety and the culture that we have in our workplace is we've implemented the 7 Cs. Now, each one of the Cs on the board is currently overseen by a member of our ELT. And what that helps to do is ensure that from the very top level with the board and with C-suite all the way down, it filters to every single employee. So whether it's commitment, change of management or control of work, we're able to have a presence at the very highest level and show commitment to that. So some examples of what some of those C's represent to us and how we implement them. If we're looking at commitment, for example, as I mentioned, that is comes from the very top level, so board and C-suite, and it shows that as a trust port, we are the custodians of the port, and we're all committed to ensure that we're able to carry the baton in our allocated time, and then we will all pass it on in the decades to come to the next people. Because if you may not know, the main mission of a port, a trust port especially, is to ensure prosperity for future generations to come. So we all have the custodian mindset, and we all want to ensure that we're able to be committed to passing the port on in a better condition than what we found it. Change of management, allows the port to prepare for the future, and that covers everything from safe operating procedures to training. That also does feed into the competency element, so upskilling and ensuring that all levels of the organisation, whether it's our marine teams, our engineering teams, or our operations and support teams, are all up to date with the relevant training and the experience that they need to be able to do the job properly. I think one of the C's on the board there, which possibly stands out a little bit from the others, is complacency, in the sense that it isn't necessarily something that you could control as such. It's something that you're almost on the lookout for in any given day. So whether it's being able to stop the job safely, whether it's ensuring that people in the workplace all have the same sort of focus on the work that we do, trying to eradicate complacency in a workplace as vast as ours, and as varied and diverse as the work that we see can be quite a challenge. So it's something that we also want to focus on. Now, Paul very kindly was speaking about some of the projections for industry in the UK and looking about the world, and you very rightly brought attention to some of the geopolitical issues that we're currently seeing in the world. And UK ports are under similar amounts of pressures and stresses to ensure that we all remain agile and capable and relevant. Now, global trade changes on there is very relevant because the UK being an island country, 85% of all the other freight that moves into or out of the UK is done by sea freight. Now, in 2024, that volume amounted to about 420 million tonnes. So it's a lot of goods which move into and out of the UK. If we're not trying to stay relevant with that and stay up to date, then the risk that we run is that we don't become relevant anymore and we can't compete with some other ports that are continuing to work. So energy transition feeds into that in the exact same way. Movement from fossil fuels into renewables. We want to be at the very cutting edge of being able to support those industries as they emerge. And then the digital transformation. So the use of AI and autonomy in ports, again, to try and drive down incident numbers, remove potential hazards where they arise by using computers to essentially do the jobs. We see a lot of that in England, especially at the bigger container terminals. Now, the UK's net zero and energy security ambitions is something that we're also trying to prepare for. Again, it does feed into the renewables aspect, but as we'll get onto with shore power in a minute, we'll see how we are effectively trying to promote that and champion it, and the changes that we've had to make in-house on a shore side sort of basis to promote the safety there. Again, innovation, digitalization to reduce bottlenecks, improve accuracy, and increase competitiveness. I've already just touched on that a little bit, but it is incredibly relevant. Ship owners, especially when you're looking at moving freight, or really any ship owner, their reputation is paramount. If ports are not capable of ensuring their reputation, then it becomes difficult to convince them to use our infrastructure. So the slide on the board is quite an interesting one. We've spoken about renewables and how we try and prepare for renewables. It is unlike other industries that we've seen for a while now. And I guess focusing on turbines on jackets in the North Sea as the final destination is one thing, but in truth, the journey starts for a port before that. So whether it's the survey and inspection vessels that we see in the planning and development stages, or it's the cable laying vessels, or even it's the cargo vessels bringing the relevant components to the port, the journey of getting to a turbine installed either on a jacket or on a floating offshore structure doesn't just happen overnight. Now, the Port of Aberdeen will be a key enabler as floating offshore wind begins to develop. And I think that we're clearly engaged, obviously, with the MSF, with the best practice for the safe backing and handling of cargo to and from offshore locations currently. But what we would like to see is that as floating offshore wind projects start to develop and those things start to change, again, we'll be just as adaptable and willing to sort of make those changes as required. Now, one thing that we are seeing already, or we have seen a few of, is larger vessels. So we've spoken a little bit about PSVs today. Most PSVs you might see in that region of anywhere between, say, 70 to 90 meters LOA. Gross tonnages in the low thousands. Some of the vessels employed in the installation of floating or offshore wind projects are considerably larger, and they bring with that themselves new challenges. How do we competently and safely bring a vessel into port which weighs 25,000 tons? They've got quite unique designs. I'm sure some of you may have seen the Fred Olsen wind vessels that we had recently in South Harbour. They can also have a slightly off gravity, centre of gravity that's always challenging. And one of the things that we realise that we have to do and have been doing is, for example, running simulation and bridge training with our marine teams to ensure that when they're boarding these vessels for the first time for the renewables industries, that it's already very compliant and they're very capable of bringing the vessels alongside safely. It doesn't just stop there, however. Obviously, these vessels carry very significant pieces of cargo. Project cargo being defined as anything that is out of gauge, expensive and heavy, that ticks the box for all three of the components that you might see, whether it's blades, nacelles or monopiles. Now, being able to successfully discharge those onto quaysides or put them onto vessels takes work and it takes commitment to safety. So it starts looking at quayside loading capabilities, looking at capabilities of the quays. It starts with looking at the safe loading of those pieces, so lifting plans, working with stakeholders to ensure that they have everything they need to complete the job safely. And that's something that we expect to see grow more and more as floating offshore wind and other renewables projects start to take up with ScotWind. We are only going to be 100 nautical miles from 75% of the projects in the North Sea. So we are projecting that we will see quite a lot of those projects use our facilities. So again, we have to be ready for them when they arrive. I'm going to pass the clicker now to Neil, and I'll let you go from there. Thank you.
Right, hopefully you can hear me. So as Chris was saying, we are part of this transition and the risks that we have seen in the complacency that could kind of come through not getting up to date with all the things that we're looking at. So we are, part of the goals that we have is a net zero 2040 ambition. So we're wanting to be one of the first ports to try and be net zero across scopes 1, 2 and 3 emissions, including visiting vessels. So a lot of the infrastructure and things that we're putting in place, we are doing very much so that we can try and be net zero across the whole port, including what's coming in. So we have committed £55 million over 10 years to try and achieve that goal. We're focusing on 3 main areas: cutting our own operations, enabling cleaner vessel operations through things like shore power and alternative fuels, and supporting the wider North Sea region. So all this brings new control of work issues, tying into our 7 Seas, we go through there. We're already underway. You've probably seen, if you've been around Aberdeen, most of our vehicles now you'll see going around the port you'll see them marked up, they're either electric or HVO, so hydro-treated vegetable oil, essentially zero emissions from it, just from the way they are. And obviously the ability to put in the shore power for the vessels. We did a feasibility study back in 2021 in the support of the 2040 net zero ambition. We were looking at it, and then the project stated, with the feasibility study, assessed the entire port provided pretty compelling figures, as you can see on the screen. So there is a societal value there of about £1 million a year, which comes in productivity losses, damage to ecosystems, infrastructure, with 78% of that coming from vessel emissions at berth. Obviously we had to do something. Shore power was the way forward in what we did. Shore power obviously allows us to connect the vessels to the electric available on the quayside. So within the shore power, we've got phase 1 there outlined, so that's what we have available across the North Harbour. So we did work with all our stakeholders just to see what kind of vessels are there, understand their profiles, review the arrivals and stage durations, and assess the power availability from the grid at various points depending on the size of the vessels that could obviously go there. It's helped us build a better picture of the North Harbour estate to work out exactly where we would put the shore power and how it would go within stage 1. Obviously taking this in as new technology, so going again, tying back into our 7 Seas, control of water is very important. We've got to learn the lessons. This is new. We can't get this from anywhere else. We have to develop the processes, systems and procedures available so that we can safely hook up vessels and get vessels the electric that they need. We've also got to do different things and working with the vessels and agents, looking at the dangerous goods on board, simultaneous operations, and even things like how we bunker the vessels when they are into the shore power. So it's all things that we're doing. As I say, it's all kind of new, it's all emergent technology, so having to very much work with people. Collaboration, again, tying back to our 7 Cs comes into it. We're working with ports like Portsmouth, who are in a similar kind of journey to us, to see what's there, but we are very much looking at safe practice. Sharing that is very important to us. So things like we have our own port safety group, so Asco and Peterson's are members of that safety group, so trying to figure out, what we're doing, share our learnings, what we're doing, how we're going to do it, and then, other ones like the Port Skills and Safety Group and Marine Safety Forum, trying to share the learnings that we are getting, because obviously we are one of the first ports to be getting that from this. So finally, just tying into where we are from it. So following our 2021 study, we did get funding support. So we would like to thank the UK government, their CMDC and ZEVI emissions programs. They awarded us the money to be able to do this and lead it forward. Projects were designed with flexibility in mind, so everything that we've done, we're trying to be as flexible as we can with the vessels that we're getting in, so we can support between 380 and 690 volts with a selection between 50 and 60 hertz. So obviously everything's different again, it's new and emergent. It took a while for like electric cars to come out with the same, using the same sockets. It's the same idea with this and how we're doing it, but very much working towards it. So when it's all up and running, we're hoping to be able to save around 4,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent from going into the atmosphere, and obviously a benefit, everybody from the vessel's crew to the larger stakeholders and the residents around the harbour as well, around the port. We've also worked with Northlink, so they've now got a 1.7 MVA supply with a fixed cable management system. So again, when we know what's there and we can work with it, we can make sure that that's delivered properly. But obviously, shore power isn't without its challenges. Cost of electric versus using MGO is high. We know that looking at the Rotterdam averages, it was between 3 to 4 times more expensive. So there's no driving imperative for vessels to use the shore power at the moment. But having that infrastructure is important for the Port of Aberdeen to make sure that we can offer our, hit our 2040 goal and offer people, offer agents and vessels that ability. So yeah, we are, as I say, committed to this 2040 goal, very much working hard towards it, and hopefully be the first port to achieve it for all the emissions. Don't know if there's, good, don't know if there's any questions for us. No, got one there.
Hang on, Richard. Somebody will bring a microphone to you. Cheers, thank you.
Morning all. Just a quick question. What's the status of phase 1? Where are you in terms of infrastructure and its capability? Obviously, you got quite a high capacity for, what was it, 19 berths? But when is it due to be actually completed, or has it been?
We are, my words tied up. It's finished, it's available, we've sort of lost you in the crowd as well. We're available now to have it. We've done commissioning with some vessels already, so it is something that we are working with the vessels. All the cable management, the systems are all in place, so it's just getting the vessels in to do it.
So the port infrastructure's installed?
Port infrastructure's there, yeah.
I thought you had issues with actually getting the juice from the grid, the capacity from the local grid. Is that not still a challenge?
No, we've got the capacity now within the port. They're all ready to, all the berths I believe are ready to go. We can take it off, we can give you the full details, but all the vessels, all the berths are ready to go. So we just need vessels, and we've had vessels doing it already. We've had them hooked up, so.
No, it's good to see.
It's good to see this, and the other thing is that there's a lot of vehicles on quaysides that could actually tap into this supply and actually help you decarbonise more. I know it's not a marine thing, but if we could encourage people into electric vehicles, like I want to go and survey the vessels, it would be good to get a top up while I'm there, but forklift trucks, vans, the company I work for is even trialling an electric HGV at the moment, and there's a lot of them fly around, so it would be, the current's certainly there, looking at the KVA, and it would be good if the vehicles that use a quayside could piggyback onto this as well as the vessels.
We do have EV charging throughout the port, so at the South Harbour as well as the North. We have Charge Place Scotland ones as well for rapid charging, so they are all available in the port at the moment.
And if I may also just build on that a little bit, I recently sat in a meeting with the North East Scotland freight partnership that was hosted by Nestrans, and that was something that got raised in that panel, that meeting too. The idea of somebody being able to, if we were looking at, facilitating the change to alternative fuels for our local HGV fleets, could we have charging stations either at North Harbour or South Harbour where a HGV could plug in? Because as it stands right now, potentially government could be looking at installing 2 roadside service stations for HGVs, with one being out towards Huntly and the other being around Stonehaven. So there would be nothing in and around Aberdeen or north of Aberdeen if you was heading towards Peterhead and some of the other ports in the north eastern tip. So having capability to charge at Port of Aberdeen would be highly advantageous for local businesses, haulers looking to move into battery electric options for HGVs.
We are, it's also in the middle of doing our finalising our EV strategy, which does include that as well. So we do have it for cars, but more for trucks and things is to come.
Your feasibility study, did it look at how many of the vessels that currently call Aberdeen are technically capable of using shore power? And also, since you've made the system live, what kind of uptake have you seen from the vessels in Aberdeen using shore power whilst they're routinely in port?
Yeah, so the feasibility study did look at vessels in the surrounding area. So obviously we had to take a pool from somewhere, so it wouldn't be any use in us looking at shore power ready capability vessels off Singapore. So we had to look at what the North Sea fleet was like. We also took guidance from some of the vessel owners and some other people, looking at the market and thinking, what could vessels look like in the future? That's something that we still continue to do. Obviously we did the feasibility study, but even last week I had a phone call with a carrier that was asking me about shore power and the capability to hook up to larger vessels. The cruise vessels also ask the same question. They want to be able to plug in when they can, so it was something we looked at. And the second part of your question, sorry, was?
The take-up.
What's the uptake that you've had since the system's gone live?
Yeah, so uptake varies, as Neil sort of touched on at the end there. The challenges that we face revolve around the cost. So it's a challenging sort of market at the minute. We're ready to start delivering from a shore side, and yeah, we just have to let the market sort of decide when it's going to be ready for it.
Yeah, thank you. Darren Biddle with Ocamp. Just a question on the estimated savings. I think you said there's an estimated savings of 4,000 tons of CO2 equivalent.
Yep.
Is that per year? And what's the scope? Is that just the phase one or these 2 projects here?
That's from per annum, and then it's for the whole, for scope 1, just for the scope that's been delivered so far. As and when it comes up and it's fully utilised, it will be 4,000 ton equivalent.
Okay, so that 4,000 tons is based on if it's fully utilized, if this scope or phase one is fully utilized?
Yeah, well that's phase 1, so we are available to do so. It depends on the take up from the owners. As the owners take up and we can use the electric there, because all the electric that we use is all green electric.
Thank you.
Take one last question.
Hi, you said you were having difficulties getting owners to take up the electric charging because of primarily the cost. You got any plans to maybe reduce or rebate port fees for any owners that would take up the electric charging to offset that extra cost?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is something that we have sort of touched on in our sort of meetings within the commercial team. I guess it depends, truthfully, on the value that we place on the shore power. So it's something that we've considered. It's probably something that we'll have to keep on looking at. So it's potentially not out of the question, but we'll have to see.
And just one final one, just kindly reminded there, our port user survey is out at the moment, so we do canvass all the port users, that people that use the port, or people that would like to use the port, and we're just we're trying to find out what you guys want from the port. Obviously we are a trust port, we're trying to serve stakeholders the best we can. If you've got it in your inbox, please complete it and send it back. If you want it, come and see Chris or myself. We can get your email address, we can have it sent on to you. So it's always interesting to know what kind of things that you guys are looking for within the port.
Okay, thank you, Port of Aberdeen.
Thanks, guys.
Most interesting, 900 years old.